Welcome to the BOS October 5th, 2023 meeting. This meeting is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Healy's executive order of March 12, 2023. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. As a preliminary matter, I am Bob Springer, Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons participating on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. John Jeffries?
Here.
Robin Hunter?
Present.
Members, staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mike Blanchard?
Present.
Is that it? I got everybody? In terms of staff,
Mona's on.
Mona,
Jasmine is
Yeah.
on.
I am here.
Jasmine Farinacci.
Also present.
Okay, so ready. So I'm not sure who's going to speak. So when we get to the part of people speaking, I would appreciate it very much if you would introduce yourself and your position, and then we can carry on going forward. So that being done, let's move to the agenda. Citizen comments? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to item 1.1. Public hearing on petition petition for joint identical pole locations located at 4 Springdale Avenue. So Mike, I think, is that going to be you introducing that?
So I can. This is my first public hearing with you, this board. Do you generally read the public hearing notice for the record?
No.
I can, no? Okay. Easy enough. So I believe we have a Verizon rep who certainly can speak as soon as I'm done, but this request comes at the request of the Community Center Building Committee. The proposed location for a driveway for the community center has a telephone pole, not quite in the middle of it, but
Is that over by Doug? Is that over by Doug? That's Reading Road?
No, it's in the
sorry,
front.
John, yeah, it's on Springdale.
Okay.
And so we have requested that the pole be moved 10 feet so that it's no longer in the proposed driveway. So it's pretty.
That's an emergency exit, is it not?
Yeah, it's going to be the main exit. It's the emergency exit now, and it's technically right on the property line of Jack Donahue's building and the driveway of the community center. And
Yeah, but I thought the egress and ingress to the community center was off Whiting. Next to Doug, there's a big parking lot back there.
Right.
And planning board approved that location, I thought, for the parking. So I don't know. My understanding of the project was this was always going to be the emergency exit.
I can't confirm that right now. I can find out. The information I have in front of me doesn't confirm or deny that, but I can find out.
Mike, all you have to do is look at the photo across the street from your office. What Bob is saying is that
I'll be right back.
the main entrance is behind Doug's. The main entrance and exit is behind Doug's on Whiting. All the traffic is going to be circled through Whiting.
Okay.
Yes.
Where the pole is, the pole in discussion this evening is currently the exit, but it's not going to be the exit in the future.
Understood.
It's really not, it was really never intended as the exit. It was always intended as an emergency exit for emergency vehicles.
But they still need to move the pole.
But they still need to move the pole. I just want to make sure that what we're doing is consistent with what I understand the project to be.
Right. I mean, regardless of whether this is a main entrance or just an exit, it still need, and there is a plan that was part of that package.
Right. So my only question is, does the pole detrimentally impact. Jack Donahue and Jay Hughes don't own the building anymore. Patrick Corrigan owns the building now. Is it going to be detrimental to them in any way, Russ or Mike?
Russ, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I can comment. I'm not really sure who owns the building, or I was under the impression that it was a town-sponsored project. Nothing more beyond that. I know that you guys were looking for the pole to be moved. It started as a Eversource request, and that's about the extent of my knowledge of the project. I don't know specifics if this is going to be an entry or an exit, unfortunately.
So Ross, it looks like it's moving.
It's moving away from
those buildings.
Right.
Right. It's moving in an easterly direction. So if you're looking at the plan, it's moving to the right, away from those other properties.
So John, to answer your question, it shouldn't impede, it should actually make it easier. It's moving away from Jack's former office. I don't know if he's still there.
Yeah.
If you look at the attachment.
That's right.
That shouldn't be an issue then. Okay. John, any other questions?
Nope.
Do I have a motion here?
I move to approve the relocation of one jointly owned pole and associated anchor numbered T.53/E.53 to a point on the southerly side of Springdale Ave, 10 feet easterly of its existing location, said pole to be adjacent to 4 Springdale Ave.
Seconded.
I beat you. All in favor. Aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Thank you, guys. Okay.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep, thank you.
So item 1.2, approve change of hours for Dover Water Company.
So I believe the applicant is here if they want to turn on their camera, but just to introduce the item, Dover Wine Company is requesting of change of operating hours to increase their hours. As the board is probably aware, there's a two-step process. The approval first is made here at the local level by you, and then should you approve it, it then goes to the state, who will issue a change of license for this establishment. The hours are listed in the memo, but I think Nirav is here. You're on mute, Nirav, if you want to come off mute and introduce yourself and just explain the change.
Hi everyone, this is Nirav here. I'm the in charge of the Dover Wine Company as well as the Dover market going forward. So the situation is, according to the town people, they need the more hours. So we used to open 10 to 7, but official hours registered with the town is 9 to 9. But we just, for the safer side, I want, according to the ABCC, the store hours will be 8 to 10 or 8 to 11. Eventually, we're going to close at 8 o'clock, but just for the safer side, because sometimes we do deliver some needy people of the town. So, we just want to be delivered stuff within that opening time frame, according to the ABCC law.
And Nirav, this is for wine only. It has nothing to do with groceries in the Dover market.
No, grocery doesn't need any, the limitation or changes, because that's a non-controlled product. But this liquor always controlled by the ABCC. So whatever we make.
For some of us, the food should be a controlled product. But.
Yeah, but there is no time.
Oh, it was just a joke. Obviously not a good one.
I mean, this just seems late for a Sunday night. What's the safety valve here? I mean, it sounds like there's a contingency, like he doesn't plan to be open till 10 o'clock. He plans to be open to 8 o'clock. But for some reason, we think it should be 10 or, Why are we
Yeah,
doing
so
that?
for example, like if it's a Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving Eve, we generally prefer to open late because people come. But for those few days, we can't have the special hours. So I'm trying to push hours as much as possible late. But we gonna close at 8 o'clock. But for example, if I want to deliver somebody after I'm closing the store, if my official hour is 9 or 10, I can easily deliver. But if it's not, then it's hurdle for me.
So for the odd customer, you want to facilitate providing service, yes?
Yes,
Right.
I mean we do provide the delivery. It's very few customers they prefer the delivery, but just for the safer side.
Okay.
Right, so I think the request is twofold. One, on the major holidays such as Christmas Eve and Thanksgiving Eve, they want the ability on New Year's Eve to stay open later to accommodate the request of customers running around. And then they also want the ability to be able to deliver once the store closes to customers, and they can't do that if we haven't given them permission to operate as a business.
How big do you think the elf market is for Christmas Eve?
Oh, it's a big day for us.
Big, I know Christmas Day is, but I mean specifically, Santa Claus and the reindeers, they're going to come by.
Yeah, in my house, it's Mrs. Claus who likes to get things from the market and make sure everything is ready. So
Food's not, it's just talking wine and presumably alcohol.
currently, but this I hope will be able to translate into the market when the market is back up and the market is completely the market. But for right now, this is it's just the wine shop.
Has this been broadcast in any ways? Anybody get any feedback from the community?
So this change doesn't require a public hearing. So there's no like a butter notification required or anything like that. This is just a request that goes directly to the board.
I don't think there are any abutters over there by the
No,
road.
there aren't, but this is a request from a business owner in town to try and help them.
Michael, how far away is an abutter to the market? Like, what is it? Just the Springdale Village people, the people behind, or is it? There's no residents closer than
Across the tracks, John. Just across the tracks, right?
Yeah, it's Bobby Tosi and probably the folks on that side of the hill are the closest, and then people on Whiting Avenue are the only really close abutters. There's no house within probably 200 yards.
There's the
Development.
There's the meadows.
But it's set way back. It's probably the closest home.
It's not set way back. It's just literally across the railroad tracks.
But
And
way
then
back.
there's the driveway, and then there are the houses.
Yeah. But the houses are at least 100 yards from the driveway.
No way. Absolutely not. So all I'm saying, I'm not saying no. I'm just trying to understand the lay of the land and how this works. Because if it was me living in the meadows, 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday or a Sunday would be disturbing. And I just wanted to make sure. I don't know if it's going to be disturbing to people like Janet and Barry Greenwood. Yeah. So
has anybody heard from any of them, Bob?
So is there a compromise position here? A business owner has come to us. This is what we need to do with respect to the liquor license. You have no choice but to specify it for, that these are the hours. Is there a way for us to ensure that the store will be closed at a set time, with the exception of Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve? And that way, I believe the owners of the store can make deliveries because their license will allow them to do that, but the actual storefront will be closed. So is there a way to bridge those two things?
Well, I think we do that already, Robin, because we.
No,
with
he
the-
specifically, Nirov specifically said that in order for him to be able to operate, the license needs to have these times.
And
That's
to
not
make, be
about
able to
saying-
make deliveries. He wants to be able to make
The
deliveries.
license, I think we do something similar already with the license for the Legion. The license for the Legion allows them to operate and serve up until, I believe, 11:30. But in almost every case, the Legion is closed by 9 o'clock. So I think we have that sort of time frame already. And Michael, maybe you can.
Yeah, so to answer the question, I think Robin and John are both correct. So these are the maximum hours they can operate, and that is what the license is for. There is no way, the state doesn't allow you to limit that. So if Nirav wanted to stay open every Sunday till 10 p.m., technically he could. I think, like the Legion, there's probably just a verbal agreement that they don't open that late except on special occasions. So I think, I guess I'm hearing that from Nirav, and if the board's comfortable with that, understanding that these would only be on special occasions like Christmas, New Year's, I don't know, maybe Super Bowl Sunday, things like that, where there's a demand. But if there is complaints, if there are complaints, you could always bring your licensee in and revisit this. That would be an option for you as well.
I'll be good with that.
You know what? I believe that we set hours for Dunkin' Donuts as a business, like the hours of operation. So maybe, maybe we could do exactly what I was proposing. Approve the license but have special hours of operation.
So can we postpone this till next time and do a little bit more research, talk to some people?
Well, when do you want to open? Nari, when do you want?
We open already. We operating liquor store, and we not doing more than what limit. My operation is 8 to 8 right now, and I can even not survive there after 8, because after 8 there is no footprint from customer side.
So Christmas and the stuff doesn't fall between now and Halloween. So the next month is the 19th, right?
Correct.
I'm uncomfortable with as little research as actually done on this. And I'm really uncomfortable with neighbor impact who don't know about this. And the Legion sits by itself in an empty space near the highway department that we've heard so much about from some of our board members. So,
So you certainly could continue the public hearing till the 19th, but just to be clear, there was no neighbor outreach, but because it wasn't required for this sort of change. If there's a change of footprint, a change of, they're expanding, then there are butter notification requirements. In this case, there were not. We certainly could, even though it's not required. But that's why there was no outreach to date.
I clearly have sympathies for the business guy who's trying to make a living. But I would certainly also like to sort of square the circle and not raise a hornet's nest, because we have a lot of hornet's nests coming around our through the townhouse with a variety of different issues. This seems like one more issue that will potentially raise the hackles of residents, because I would assume it's a relatively disruptive change, not the delivery, the opening of the store. And so if the other two board members feel comfortable, that's one thing. I do not. So if
I personally do not have an issue with this, because I would like to support business owners. I would, however, like to be able to get something more than, I promise we won't open until, we'll only open late on certain nights, the store. So if we could have a side agreement on the hours of operation of the actual store, I would be very comfortable approving this.
I would support that.
Same.
How does that happen?
Michael, I think you have that conversation and you hammer out the hours and then bring it to us and we approve it.
Yeah,
And
we
we
could
can ask
hammer up
legal
the,
counsel.
yeah, we could hammer up the day-to-day hours and then perhaps a list of days that would be
That's
special days.
Potentially deductions.
Right, and if Nirav finds that there are other days that he would like to have the store open longer, then he just comes to the board and we have a discussion, just like we did tonight.
Sure. That's good to me.
Right, I mean, we very much appreciate that the market is open and
Yep.
we wish you much success, and we want to
Thank
work
you.
with you to try
Thank
and make it a viable entity.
Okay, what's the next steps?
Yeah, we
So-
want you to open right away because some of us are starving to death now that Chef Cindy is not preparing us food.
Believe me or not, I just texted Cindy before we start this meeting, and I said hundreds of people missing your food. I would love to bring you back, but she is on vacation with her family. So let's see. I'm still trying to bring her back.
That's
Thank you.
great. That's good news, Nirav.
Thank you for doing this.
Can we
Oh, yep.
approve this pending side letter?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, and we'll let Mike handle it.
All right, I move to approve Dover Wine Company's request to change Dover Wine's operating hours, subject to the modifications suggested by the board at this meeting.
To be
Complete to Right.
completed by the town administrator.
negotiation to be completed by the town administrator. Right. So from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday, Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday, pending the negotiation. For Massachusetts law, the Board of Selectmen, as a local licensing authority, is required to approve a change in operating hour. Oh, that's the summary. I move to approve Dover Wine Company's request to change Dover Wine's operating hours to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., subject to the amendments discussed tonight, Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday. Do I have a second? Did I make any sense?
Second. Yes, you did.
All in favor of Bob Springett?
John Jeffries.
Robin Hunter.
Done. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirav.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Nirav, thank you. See you soon.
Sure. Thank you.
So the chairs of the towns, boards, committees, commissions have requested that the Board of Selectmen appoint or reappoint individuals to their boards, committees, and commissions. Additionally, staff members whose terms have expired will be appointed or reappointed to their respective properties, respective positions. I got this stuff on way too low in terms of text size. Well, I got to put glasses.
Bob, you should see how big my stuff is.
Yeah,
It's embarrassing.
okay. Jesus. I thought I moved.
Yeah, Mona, can you make the font bigger, maybe?
I can do it here.
I will do that.
It's just
Mona.
that,
Explain to them what these are.
yeah, I have
Oh,
those.
I love it, John.
I moved to
That's
appoint.
a big one.
I move to appoint Council on Aging Associate Member Cindy Holmes as a full member to fill the unexpired term of Camille Johnson, ending on June 30th, 2025. Is Camille stepping down as chair? She was chair, no?
Janet's here, she could tell us.
Yeah, Janet's here, but I believe she was an associate member. This will move her to become a full member.
No, you're talking about Cindy now, right? I was wondering if that was Camille's term up?
Janet's about to tell you.
Okay.
Camille moved out of town, Bob.
Ah, she joined the guys from Maine. Bob,
Okay,
and
no, they moved to a neighboring town, but she's still volunteering and helping us, which is good.
that's good. That's great.
Wow.
I move to appoint Joseph Doyle as the local building inspector for a term ending on June 30th, 2024. Need a second.
Second,
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Okay, item number 1.4, Selectmen. Board members will provide updates on various items, projects, and initiatives. Police Chief Search, Mr. Jeffries.
The police chief search candidates are now 4. We
Okay,
have 4 finalists, which will begin being interviewed by the board, by the committee, by Russ and 2 other chiefs first, and then myself, Russ, and 2 other chiefs, beginning on the 27th of October. We had to get a day where you give enough of the candidates time to schedule a very full day. So that was a bit of that's problematic to get 4 people a day for 4 people to do anything. So to try to schedule a dozen people in a day is really hard. So we met last week. We are very excited about where we are right now. This is really the final stretch of the process. Additionally, I'd just like to say that I know that Robin and Michael have met with acting chief Todd Wilcox on items. I have as well. I've been really keeping him informed, keeping the members of the department informed, because not only are they short-handed as Todd is doing the chief's job and his old job, but as we're about to find out in our next segment, we're down officers and in desperate need of solutions. So
John, I thought I read 3. They're down 3 officers. Is that right?
that's correct. Yeah, as a matter of fact, they're to the point, Bob, where there has to be a sergeant on duty, and the sergeant on duty, in the case of Sergeant Wilcox, acting Chief Wilcox, you have to have a sergeant on duty, and then if that sergeant it needs to work a double or a double one day, that person could be on duty the very next day. So it's really. Bob, we were thinking of deputizing you.
Oh, man. You don't want to give me a gun, I'm telling you. Water gun. I'm good with water guns.
Just for the board's benefit and any public that might be listening, this is not a Dover problem per se. This is across the state.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So I don't want the people to think what's going on in Dover's police. It's a problem across the Commonwealth, across the country.
So, Mike,
Right, Mike? It's because of a change in policy that came down from the state level where they said you could no longer have part-time.
Like temporary or part-time, yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it, and particularly a lot of communities used auxiliary or part-time to fill details, so that's really hard to fill details. In terms of just permanent full-time officers, there's just less candidates. A lot of people have left the field, and it used to be you take the test and you'd be lucky if you got an interview. Now there's just not as many people who are going through the process to become a police officer.
Is there
several aspects.
One at a time, guys. One at a time, John.
Go ahead, Robin.
I wanted to know if there were age restrictions, because maybe this could be a retirement thing for me. No, there's no age restrictions. We would like you to be the administrative person for the town and the dispatch person from midnight to 7. I think that would be perfect for you.
Yeah,
it's another hobby.
I'm not a night. I'm a morning person. So it would
be problematic.
I can't stay up.
there's several things, but structurally there are two things. There's the blowback, there's the pushback of many, many members of police forces across the country quitting as a result of changes in just the social environment that took place a few years ago with radical protests against police. And so that has been definitely an impact to the policing across the country. That's
Yeah,
number
that happened in
that.
the 60s too, John.
I'm sorry.
That happened in the 60s as well. But we
Yeah,
see
you're right. It did. So that's part of it. Then in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Robin, we used to be able to hire somebody and then pay for that person to go to the policing academy. We can't do that anymore. You have to be academy trained. And so that's a big, big problem. When that was implemented, it really put a lot of small departments in a bind. I think we have a very creative solution that we're going to address later on in this meeting that will really help both the people who want to become officers in towns who desperately need candidates.
Okay.
Michael, would you add anything to that?
No, I think you're right.
Okay.
But thank you for reminding everybody of that fact. It's, that it's not just us, it's all towns.
No, it's everybody. So that, Bob, that's it for me.
Robin, why don't you bring us up to date on your latest?
All right, so I got a really good positive response from the housing task force. The ZBA asked that we look into whether or not they could actually participate in the task force. So Mike was going to reach out to town council. The mission for this task force is really to design a process that we would go through when we get some of these applications in, and not in any way influence the decision. But the ZBA wanted us to double check, so we'll do that. But other than that, what we have is a staff member, as well as a committee member from planning board, Concom. We have the building inspector, Board of Health. And those are going to be the initial committees that get together. And I hope to schedule a meeting for the week after next. I'm going to have Mona help me. And at that meeting, we are going to pull together or finalize our mission and put together a timeline for putting a process in place, with a goal of getting the process done within 30 days. So outlined and done. And I don't know whether we're fortunate or unfortunate to be able to use one of the applications that we're going through the process right now as a way for us to put together this process that we will follow in the future. Once we have that done, phase 2 for this committee, and at that point we will get additional input and even go out to citizens, is to do a review of all of our bylaws, our master plans, and put together, look at what's in place today, see what we could put in place with respect to different kinds of zoning that may be more appealing for large parcels of land, and work to put together a housing philosophy that also may require approval of some changes in bylaws by town meeting. So it's very exciting.
That sounds like
it will evolve over time once we figure out what we should have addressed that we didn't address.
all right. So you're mixing tactics with strategy, right?
Right.
And so
That's the general idea. But first item of business and the most important item of business is to define a process. So when an application comes in, and this is the whole premise behind this task force, that when an application comes in, you know exactly what committees and what staff members within the town need to be made aware that this application has come in, and we'll all know what we need to do, and everybody will have the same information available to them. And that's the most important thing.
Right, but there is a process, right? There currently is a process. It's a
No,
matter
not
of reading it together.
Not really, because we've had so few of these. There's nothing documented, and they've been so far apart. So things have happened, but they've never been documented. Staff has changed, committee members have changed. So that's why there has been a process. Whether it's been standardized or consistent, we can't tell you. So that's what we're trying to do, is put
Okay,
together.
but Robin, from the state point of view, a 40B has a process.
Yes.
Right, but the 40B does, but within the town, when the 40B has a process, but within the town, there are things that we need to do as well. And that's where we've fallen short.
Yeah,
Not
no,
to mention-
I agree. So there is a 40B law. It has certain things that we need to do. We as a diversified, distributed government have a hard time pulling things together when they go across the silos. What you're trying to do is create a process that goes across the silos so that everyone has the same information, everybody's on the same page, everybody understands what's going on.
Right, and that's an
There should be
internal
more cohesiveness to our response, yes?
Right, so what we're doing is defining an internal process to address applications.
All right, and then you got to deal with the MBTA.
Right, but it's all part, we need to look at what we have today in place.
Right.
And the issue we have is this task force is designed to eliminate the silos. So when the hearing goes to the ZBA has all the information that the planning board has. They know their input. They know, Concom's input. They know everything.
God love them if they know everything.
Right. Everybody has the same information.
Right, so we got a letter today from a resident on Tillsdale who's been in town for 30 years. And is dismayed by, I guess it's Red Robin's brother, Green Robin. And, I'm assuming that this kind of coordination, assuming it doesn't step on too many toes, would be effective in at least presenting a unified town position in these situations.
Right, but again, we need each of these committees to look at it and put together a comprehensive document. And I believe, Mike, you went to the resident meeting today, right?
Yes, I had a meeting with
Tisdale?
the
Right.
Tisdale Association, Condo Association, yes.
And Mike,
And-
you're gonna give us a report on that later in your
your
second.
update.
Yep.
Okay.
Again, just like, our hands are somewhat constrained, but putting our best foot forward should be a good step in the right direction. The state has, clearly there's an interest to develop housing.
Well, part of that, Bob, is being slammed down your throat. Part of it is how do you get your taxpayers to understand that we have to be able to react and respond. We have to be able to do the things that we can do. And with regards to the new MBTA housing initiative and those things that are in front of us, we have to coordinate that with our 40B applicants who want to do what, as Michael just described, make red robin, green robin, and then blue robin. If there's another robin, there's going to be other robins. So you go from 40 houses to 70 houses in 3 acres or 4 acres.
Blink of
It's
an
a,
eye.
it's a very dense, it's going to be an incredibly dense area for where there was no density. So I can see that the people on Tisdale are going to be furious. The people on Draper are going to be also furious, as are anybody on the abutting streets. So Tubrek, it affects that whole neighborhood, and they should be outraged.
And, part of the mission of this task force is education, and education of the members on the committee, and education of the citizens at large as well. And one of the things that we have found, even as we've been going through the process with the 3 applications that we have in place, is the quality of responses to some of these housing applications by our neighboring towns versus what Dover in the past has pulled together really demonstrates that we don't have the type of professionalism that other towns do. And I think, that's what we're trying to do. And part of the process is how the response is put together and who should review it, just so that we come across as being responsible and somewhat engaged in the process.
No, I think that's right. That's why I was focused a little bit on the tactics versus strategy, because you're going to be in a tactical mode for a little bit, and strategy is going to take much longer. By the way, I thought the article on water was well done.
So, that I am really excited because, Mike, you don't know this, but many moons ago, when I was on long range planning, I tried to get a housing sort of process and plan to be the next thing that they worked on. And there wasn't a whole lot of interest to do that. And again, there weren't any of these applications. And now we have 3 that we're dealing with at once.
Yeah,
So-
4. It's the existing red robin, blue robin, Trout Brook, and potentially Junction Road. So there's
I'm afraid
technically
the horse has
4.
left the barn, guys. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. But the last threat was almost 7 years ago with 46 Springdale. So it's been a long time since we've had to really seriously understand what the impact of a lot of a high density housing area would be.
And my last comment is, we want to put ourselves in a position where we're proactive and not reactive.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the Investment Advisory Working Group. I see your name again, Mrs. Hunter.
Right. I did not know that I thought Mr. Jeffries was in charge of it.
So did I.
Mr. Jeffrey. So we will discuss that
Are
because
you responsible for this, John?
Mr. Haviland, no. Mr. Haviland and I have had conversations with others, but why don't you continue and we'll segue where needed.
All right. So here's my last memory was you guys were going to put together, we're going to advertise for people who were interested in working on this
Yes.
issue. That was sort of go to the website, which I think it did.
Right, because we've gotten volunteers, including Mr. Haviland.
Right, and then we were going to presumably screen the applicants and ultimately make a recommendation to the board for whether it's 3 or 5 people to work on this particular project. Is that what we are?
And I thought we agreed that before we posted it, we would do a similar sort of a committee approach where we would post it, solicit interest, get some feedback, and then come back and make recommendations.
Yeah, I think that's where we wound up. So that's
And we've started to get volunteers already.
okay. So are you the guy going to drive the bus?
I am happy to drive the bus. I have identified people can share those people with the board. I think we should again wait and see if there are people that have come to the board, but
Yeah, we should follow the process that we
Yeah.
basically set. That'd be
So maybe the next meeting, we have gotten a couple of people express their interest. So.
Dave,
And
would
again,
you add anything to that?
excuse me?
I think you covered it. It's getting a good group of people together to go through the policies and find out if there are any communication lapses and similar items, and then make recommendations to fix them.
Right, but it's got to start with us, right?
Correct.
We got to make sure that, I mean, like I said to in the past, what we tend to do is something comes in front of the board, like a renewal of a contract with an investment advisor, and we invariably talk about it a little bit. And then at the end of that, we make a motion to assign to the town administrator the authority to complete the contract. So if there are issues around contract, it's in-house. It's not third party. And we need to make sure that we understand how our process works, as well as how the investment advisor's process works, so that when we sign contracts with people, we all know what the heck's going on.
Absolutely. And
Totally.
most of this appears to be communication on both sides.
Yeah,
My best guess, that's what the committee is going to find out.
okay, that's good. All right,
And Bob, one of the things that I think just want to add to that with the conversation Dave and I have had and with the potential of bringing others is all of the things that we do with contracts are completely transparent with providers, from trees to pavement to sand to salt to the literally the people who, all of the vendors that we have in the town. There are many vendors that have been brought to our attention that we had no knowledge of. So we're trying to also go back and make sure, how did these things happen? And are there in place things that should have been in place from the very beginning of
Yeah,
these
we agree.
relationships?
we agree, John, but what I'm pointing out is we need to make sure that we understand how this happened. And Dave, I think, covered it pretty well. I think you've covered it pretty well. And I'm not absolving the board for sort of handing something off to a town administrator 25 years ago and forgetting about it.
I thought the board that the committee would then come back and report to you as the Board of Selectmen and
Yes.
share the information.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
That's exactly correct. Yes, sir. So that's good. Okay. Looks like up, and there was we have this issue of onboarding for people. The TA, the ATA, our personnel hire, and our treasurer. And it's not one of the things that we've actually focused on or done particularly well, as far as I can tell. And so I talked with Mike yesterday about putting together a similar type of organization that can look at the onboarding, take a look and see if there is sort of best practices, and then decide together and ultimately present to the board what we think we should be doing around onboarding. And so the simplest 4 factors that one should consider when onboarding are the people who are being recruited and hired. The organization's culture plays big in this particular role. And then you identify tasks that the individual is theoretically responsible for, and ultimately milestones. And so, since I'm in the bus driving mood, I was wondering if Robin, our HR folk,
That was going to be my suggestion. We have an HR professional, and she can look at best practices in other towns and help us with this.
Yeah, I thought Robin with an I,
Right.
would be the person to drive the bus. I wanted to make sure Mike was comfortable with that.
Yes, no, I think that's a perfect role for her. Absolutely. This is why we brought her on board.
Right. So if Robin, if you'd like a designated Board of Selectmen representative, I can work with Robin on that because
That
I have
seems to be,
a bunch of
seems to be
experience.
me.
What?
Seems to be me.
Okay. Well,
You already have two things, right?
no, I have one.
And it's a big thing.
I expect Robin as the professional to do the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Me too. We'll see what happens. I'm going to skip upcoming agendas because I want to finish my BOS updates. Then I'll go back to that particular discussion item. So under BOS updates, the 3 to 5 BOS member committee will re-engage in this month. They took the summer off. They had homework assignments, but Kate told me she wasn't sure everybody did their homework. But that's supposed to get engaged shortly. We had the town meeting planning group. It's been Felicia and Dave, Jim, occasionally me, been looking at how to streamline town meeting. And the last piece of work that was done was really nice. They put together a sponsors set of requirements or guidelines for warrant article sponsors who had to follow step by step over the roughly 2.5 months that this process happens. And I thought it was sympathetic to the uninitiated. It was detailed. It was specific. And I hope it has the impact that we all hope, which is we don't waste volunteer time on silly things. So Dave played a good big role in that. Appreciate him, Felicia, and I'm assuming Jim, and consider that a done deal. Dave, do we have to get that approved by Nina, or is it a policy of the board? Did you ever be able to figure that out?
I have not. The way it's envisioned, it's a suggested procedure that everyone follows. So, and the Board of Selectmen is at the bottom. So I think that maybe if you shared that with your colleagues and then just vote on it, it sets it in motion, and then we can use it this season or for this town meeting.
Okay, I thought we were waiting. I thought we were waiting for either Jim to opine or Nina to opine. I'll send it out tomorrow.
No, so the input came from Warrant Committee, Capital Budget Committee, Jim, Felicia.
Okay, all right, so we covered all the bases.
So everyone has seen it, and everyone thinks it's ready to go.
Okay, DCC is a meeting next week. I don't really have an update on that, except that the 71 building is looking a little airier than it used to. And some of the old gym area in the back along Whiting is also exposed. So progress is obviously continuing. Mike, were you able to find out anything about the asbestos?
I was. So the question the board had was the number that was out there is about $250,000 if that for the change order, and that is indeed above what
188
in the budget. No, so it'd be whatever that number is, and it could be upwards of 250 is the full amount of the change order. When that comes before you, they'll certainly be able to provide more details, but basically there were several suspect asbestos materials that had not been previously tested. And testing did find additional asbestos in gasket material in the boilers. There was some corkboard adhesive. So, when you pull down the corkboard behind it, and some other paint and caulking material at the windows. And so that was quite a extensive amount of work. It was complicated with the boiler abatement, and that resulted in a large change order. So again, that'll be coming before you, and they'll be able to provide more details. But I did research that after the last meeting and did want to report that out.
Thank you.
Mike, Bob, if I may, how do you miss $250,000 worth of asbestos when we had
particular line item?
I'm sorry, Bob?
It's another 50% override.
Yeah. But it's significant. And you think about that 50% overage on one line item. And we have had, I think we did this 3 times. I think we had the subcontractor bids 3 separate times. Is that right? Bob, it was at least 3, right?
This is best, I said last time, we've been warned about this since 2018. And we hired these people specifically to find the asbestos. The fact that they found half or less than half is not an encouraging sign.
So do we have any recourse?
So again, I will defer to our owner's project manager to provide you some more details, but as I understand it, some of the material wasn't accessible. So during some of the previous testing, the building was occupied. A lot of the cost was the complexity of the boiler abatement. And some of that asbestos was in gaskets and portions of the boiler as they started to remove it. So I'm not an asbestos expert, but as I understand it, those weren't tested because the boiler was in use. They weren't taking the boiler apart when they did the testing. And I don't have a breakdown, but I believe a large amount of that cost was related to the boiler itself.
Well, maybe we should get that, Mike.
Yeah, no, they will be in before you to present before you vote.
And then, Mike, I'd also like to know, what leverage do we have? What happens to the next item that goes 50% over budget? How do we address this? There's got to be
at some point, it's a fixed contract. You use up the contingency, then presumably the builder has to eat it.
Right. It's a really good question. I mean, that is probably right. That is the purpose of the contingency, because there is unforeseen things, and this would fall under that. But it is a very valid question, and when they're before you, we will flesh that out.
Okay. So we've been running this warrant working group for a couple of maybe 6 weeks or something like that. They're from a organizational point of view, I think Cam's done a nice job. It's pretty well organized. There were 4 threads of work that were looked at. One was a timeline, which trying to sync the timeline between the various groups. There was content that we asked our communications consultant to take a look at to see if there were improvements that could be made. There was discussion around outreach initiatives, which included being a little bit more visible on the town website, and then ultimately roles and responsibilities, which really haven't gotten there yet. The issues with outreach, I would make sure that we encourage. Website's not an easy thing to navigate. And so I've suggested to Cam that, he identifies, working with you, Mike, people who should be his contacts who work on the website, so we can put up something similar to what Ford did, with the Carroll Community Project page and updates. They need to be onboarded on how to use the website effectively. So that should be something. Last night they pushed the meeting to next, early November. I think they have work to be done, or they should be considering work that needs to be done in October, to sort of straighten out some of these things that they were not using and don't seem particularly well versed in, including social media. So they're going to need a roadmap of some sort, at least to get them going. And I like that. Hopefully they could get that done so that when the gun goes off in November, they're ready. The other thing that is incredibly worrying to me is this idea of level service. In their budget guidance letter, they're talking about a level service budget. Well, let me tell you what level service budget does. Level service pushes up costs and stagnates the town. And if you want to take a look at the growth of the operating budget from 2020 to 2020 from 2010 to 2020, or 2000 to 2020, during a period where inflation ran at 2%, according to the Social Security Index, and our budget went up twice the inflation rate. So whenever you level service, what's going to go up is your COLA is going to push salaries up. It's going to push teacher salaries up because they have huge step and lane increases, and you're going to wind up paying for more. We changed how we plan in 2018 when we moved from a budget green eye shade motive to a here's the investments we need to make to eliminate 20 years of stagnation. And so what I don't know, and what I think is really important, is how we know we have to make investments. We have to make investments in people. Fortunately, we have open recs like the ATA and the NPM and a business analyst that have been empty for a year. So that'll cover some of the financial gaps. And we also know that planning needs to extend beyond 1 year. So in 2024 coming up, we have a focus on the website. If you look at what people have told us, we also are going to need, as you get into the next year, 2025, people want digital processing. They want document management. They want permitting. So going into 2025, we're going to be, since we haven't done anything on technology, and it will be a year and a half, almost 2 years, there's going to be substantial more investment that's going to need to be made. And investment and level service doesn't work. And so as we get in,
I think it's really important to recognize that one of the biggest drivers in the budget were some of the changes that were made by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with respect to how special education is funded. So
special education is the driver, but anyway, it's one of them.
It was a huge driver, Bob. It was the biggest driver in the school budgets because they pushed down.
Are you talking net or are you talking gross?
I'm talking gross. It was a big driver in the school budgets. You know, the schools increases in salaries have been on par with inflation. You know, overall, because what the schools did is they found more efficient ways to deliver services so that they could keep the budgets where they were. But also the cost of insurance, which we have zero control over. The cost of insurance has gone up astronomically. So there are a couple of huge drivers that were part of what was driving our overall budget during this time period.
So maybe the Warren Committee, with their financial forecasting and analytical responsibilities, ought to be telling people that. By the way, we went from when you and I first started to lock horns, the reimbursement rate on SPED was under 50%. Now I'm assuming that the reimbursement rate on SPED, because we had the choice of funding net or funding gross. So I'd really like a much deeper dive into what's driving the budget, because it feels to me a lot more like the 70s. We underinvest in town operations. We underinvest in people. We don't have enough people to do the work that's necessary. We know that volunteers are being we need to move to professional staff. That's going to be a real change, and that needs to be dealt with above board and directly to make sure that as a financial institute, our finances, just like the investment accounts, our finances are solid. And we understand what's driving what. I'm not sure that you may know that because of your background. I don't know that. But to me, that's a real area where there could be significant conflict. And I don't want to go back to those days. We need to be working together for the benefit of the town and understanding the implications or the outcomes of actions we have taken. So we'll see where that. I'm gonna push on that to make sure we understand. I don't want to get caught short. 70s were not a good time. So that covers the areas I wanted to cover. Mike, I'm still looking for that staffing projection, what we think we're going to need to do the work of the town this year and next year. And we can go on to I didn't see anything on any of the agendas going forward. I thought they were okay. Does anybody have anything?
I do think there is one Board of Selectmen update regarding the roles and responsibilities of the board. The document was sent out.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you talk about that?
So we got some, I thought they were very thoughtful comments from the planning board. And I had a similar conversation with the Board of Health. So I think what I'll do is take the roles and responsibilities and just try and tweak some of the wording. Actually, the planning board was very helpful in making suggestions.
She was always a good editor. She was one of my.
So I appreciate that, but I'll go back through it and redline the document and send it out for the rest of us. And I really encourage other boards and committees, if they want to talk about what we were trying to do here, or if they have some suggestions. I explained to somebody that this was version number 7. So
no. It was 9.
9. So I said, don't feel bad about changing a few words, because we all changed a lot of words. So
there'll be lots of changes to the changes that have been made, I'm sure, and revisions.
I will take that, but it seems as though everybody had the same. I think we're all on the same page. It's just when you start putting things in words, it's sometimes when people read it, the intent changes. So let me try and fix that, and I'll send it out to everybody. I'll do it this weekend.
Listen, Robin, you got to watch your workload, right? We have a communications consultant. Should we use him or her?
Oh, sure. That's an excellent idea. I'll send it to him. I've worked with him before. He's been great. Tom?
Okay. That'll give us a fresh view. You know what I mean?
No, that's an excellent idea, because I do have preconceived ideas. So let me do that.
No, I never knew that about you.
Yeah, imagine that. Robin, you have preconceived ideas. Shocking.
Everybody does. When you read things, you read them based upon what you want it to say.
Well, exactly. Robin, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think that everybody will edit it through their own lens to say, don't forget whatever it is, what's important to them. And there's
that's an excellent idea, having the consultant who has no skin in the game.
Fresh eyes.
But don't also remember, we don't want to dilute anything, and we want to make it also consistent that it's a broad-based document. It's not intended to drill down specifically to operating groups that are under the boards or in their own, maybe in their own silo, to use Bob's word. So it's the Board of Selectmen.
So it's a broad summary document.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it's supposed to be in English, that's what we were trying to do, right? And make it so that if somebody, not illegally, so that if somebody said, well, what did the Board of Selectmen actually do? They could go under the Board of Selectmen and see this hopefully easy to read summary of what we do.
All right. So, Robin, I know your experience with the warrant committee goes back to, I think it was 1942.
Correct.
And, I was wondering. So, I always thought the Blue Book, they had some really nice financial metrics in there. I didn't think the presentation was wonderful, and I also thought that they spent too much time looking backward and not enough time looking forward. So, I was thinking about how we could get value out of all that data that Peter's been working with. since 1937. And so I would think key financial metrics that do things like highlight drivers would be of interest. I don't know if you've done that, did that in the past. And then the other things, I don't, who reviews independent boards and committees, their budgets and goals? Anybody?
Well, they all present they're given guidance. They go through, well, the planning board has the master plan. I'm thinking out loud here. And everything always went through the warrant committee. As part of the budget process, that's what the warrant committee did.
Is that
Right,
what
the
happened?
warrant committee, literally, Michael and I went back 2 weeks ago. We got the warrant committee handbook. Imagine that. And we literally reread the warrant committee handbook of the town of Dover. And Robin, that's exactly what they're supposed to do. Make those presentations to the Board of Selectmen. And in an article or page number 1 or number 2, it literally says the Board of Selectmen does not have to agree with the warrant committee, but that's what gets presented to town in the town budget at the town meeting. So warrant committee has that charge, and the Board of Selectmen then is responsible for the implementation.
Yeah,
Mike,
John,
is that-
my problem with that is it's old thinking.
Is
No,
literally
seriously.
their handbook.
Seriously. I don't care what the handbook says. It's what actually works in real world that matters. And like I tried to say earlier, we have moved from a green eye shade, thump the number approach with the sleeve roll up to planning. When you plan, you're looking forward. When you budget, you're looking backward. And that makes no sense. And so what the other thing that's bad is they don't want to set up a system that is you don't want it to be negative. Remember all the fights about free cash? I don't want to go back to those days. We're one town. We need to agree on goals and priorities, and we need to invest where we need to invest. And forget about the damn handbook.
The 2018 changes came from the 2017 free cash task force that we established my first year, very first year, 100 years ago as my first chairman. So that's literally when we did that.
Yep.
So
anyway,
you're right.
And then the other thing that I think probably gets short shrift is some of the more complex warrant articles that people bring to town meeting. I always thought that that warrant did a nice overview and did a nice presentation on complex. Now, obviously, the presenter has responsibility, but the warrant committee should also have a strong voice on some of those issues. Anyway, that's just an aside. Any changes to the agendas that Mike put together? Hearing none, I'll move on to 1.5, town administrator updates.
Thank you. So we just met last week, so I don't have a lot of substantial updates on kind of overall projects and goals and priorities. I did want to note a few things. One, I had the opportunity to have breakfast with Representative Garlick last week, which was nice to get to meet her. And I'll be also—
Finally, you were able to get your calendars coordinated.
We were able to do that, and I'm working now with Senator Roush to do that as well. with
Where'd
her.
you have breakfast? I want to know. Where'd you have breakfast? Needham or Dover?
It was Needham. Yeah. Was either that or Dunkin' Donuts here, right? That's it. So, and yeah, so I'll be meeting with our senator as well, which is great. I continue to meet with board and committee chairs. It was a little tough when I first started because a lot of people wait for the summer. But now that September and October are here, this week I've met with Bonnie Akins, the chair of the assessors, and Erin Rodat Savla, the chair of the library trustees, which was 2 great meetings and introductions. I won't talk more, but Robin already covered, she and I met about the housing task force, and Bob and I met about the onboarding process. So that's great. And then lastly, as was alluded to before, and Robin and John mentioned, I met with some neighbors on Tisdale regarding the 40B that's been proposed. I think it was a really positive meeting. And I think the work of the task force can be really important because there is a lot of confusion in the community about what a 40B is, what it means, what the process is, how residents get involved. I think there's some frustration that people know this is coming, but there isn't a public forum yet for them, but helping them understand that there will be and what that process looks like. So it was a very positive meeting. We shared a lot of good information, shared contact information. So we'll continue to talk with them and meet with them as we move forward. As the board knows, we sent out a letter to our departments, applicable land use departments and staff. So comments regarding that 40B are due to this office later in October. And then we'll work with town council, as Robin mentioned, to try to emulate what has been successful in other communities, which is putting together a real comprehensive package to deliver to mass housing of our concerns, or suggestions for these projects. As Robin said in the past, oftentimes we would collate all of the opinions from the different boards and committees and just kind of send them in. And while it was there, the presentation wasn't what I think it needed to be. So I think we'll look to do that. It's kind of difficult because we're trying to start a new process for this while also identifying the process. So we'll try to weave that together as much as possible. But I'm confident that we will have a very comprehensive and strong response to this Tisdale, or as people are calling it, Red Robin 2, Green Robin, whatever you want to call it. I think there are some real legitimate concerns. I think not the least of which is John mentioned, this is going to be so dense, and the first project isn't even built yet. So we haven't had the opportunity to experience or determine what the true impacts are of that sort of dense project. So to approve another one before we've had the opportunity to experience one just doesn't seem like a smart idea. And that'll be part of our commentary to the state. Even if this is somehow approved later down the line, at least for now, let's put a pause on it until we understand the effects of the first development in that area. So we are hopeful. As Bob said, sometimes your chances don't seem great, but I think it's important to put our best foot forward as we deal with this issue.
This is clearly a liability of volunteer government. And so when we're thinking about changing to professional staff, and I talk about hiring qualified professionals to deal with complex issues, this is precisely what we talk about and what we mean, right? The volunteer base, with few exceptions, and the siloed approach just doesn't cut it anymore. And we should clearly think about changing the way we operate the government going forward. This is just coming up all the time, and it's not going to abate. And you're not going to get exceptions because they're going to think you're a rich community trying NIMBY. So the sympathies don't necessarily lie with the town of Dover.
And you may be right, but I think there's some long-term,
right.
There's long-term things to look at. But given our current structure, I think we're trying to find a way to do the best we can to bridge those silos for everyone to be on the same page, so that we present a comprehensive front, a united front with these sort of issues.
Sometimes when the boat is sinking, you got to leave.
I think, Mike, and we've had the opportunity, you and I, to talk about this in depth earlier this week. And I think this approach is the right approach because it does put forward a much more professional approach to how to deal with this. And I think we checked the box in the past and we're moving forward and improving the process.
Robin, can I add one thing to what you said? Is the integration with our surrounding towns, where we're constantly being put into a position where surrounding towns are doing something that we are maybe late to the party to know about. And I think with Bob's comments of professional management and having a little bit more consistency just because of the things we've had happen to us as a town over the past several years with open positions and transitional positions and filling those positions, we haven't focused on any of those items that are happening to the towns around us. And with this professional management, with this initiative, we're going to have a better chance of doing that. And we've got to do that. We've got to know what Medfield thinks, and we've got to know what Westwood thinks, and Needham and Wellesley and Sherburne. Obviously, we're being impacted by the things that each other are doing.
Yeah, the woman's note today talked about the traffic on 109. And Medfield's built, it seemed to me like they built 200 million apartments. And when you build apartments, people are going to drive. The idea of a Mass Bay Transit Authority located near a mass transit in a town that doesn't have transportation. I mean, this stuff is nonsense.
Well, Bob, Medfield has built probably 200 condos on Route 27. They have
Right.
300. They have 375 coming. More.
So, so this conversation isn't about what the towns around us are doing well and not doing well.
Right.
It's about the way Dover can improve the way we do things.
Correct.
And
That was my point, Robin. That we've
here.
got to be doing it.
Right. And I think today, Mike going and listening to the residents, I think first of all, Mike, it gives us everything you said. I would like to address at our task force meeting, because those are the items that we do need to address. And it was very eloquent. And there is a misunderstanding of 40B, and we need to find ways to educate our residents, and at a minimum, let them know when an application comes in, they can go to the town website or go somewhere and see the progress of what's happened to that application, where we stand in the process, what the town has done. I mean, that's all we can do, and work within the framework that's been given to us. So I appreciate, the efforts that have been made in the short time. And as I said before, I'm energized with the housing task force. And I know Jasmine has ideas, and I was extremely pleased with the positive response that we got from everybody. So, and that's the most important thing. Everybody wants to do something.
Yeah. Consent agenda. We're done?
Yeah.
Yes, all set.
Consent agenda, approve additional $500 weekly for acting police chief Wilcox. Approve 2023 one-day special liquor licenses for October 5th, November 1st, 30th, December 12th. Approve December 15th, 2022 BOS open session meeting minutes.
Seconded.
All in favor, aye, Bob Springett.
Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
So there is not a click in for the next meeting, right?
So we're trying something a little new. What we would ask is you make a motion to enter executive session. We will then be able to, Mona and I can work to clear the room so that the board gets to stay here. We'll shut off the Facebook sharing just to try to make it a little more simple for the board so we don't have to end and leave. So if you want to make a motion to enter an executive session, not to return to open session per the agenda, and then we can work. We'll just pause for a minute. while we-
So moved that on that motion, and I think we have to do a roll call vote, right?
Right.
Yes.
So they were actually kind enough. Do you want me to read the motion?
I'm trying to find it where it is.
I have it memorized. We do it on every. Go ahead, Robin. Yes, please.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so I move that the board enter into executive session, not to return to open session, for the purpose of conducting strategy session in preparation for collective bargaining negotiations with the Dover Police Force.
Police Association.
Further, Mr. Springett as chair declared that open meeting discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town. And now Mr. Springer will take a roll call vote.
So all in favor, John Jeffries,
I, John Jeffries.
Robin Hunter,
I, Robin Hunter.
I, Bob Springer.
Well, as you were making the motion, everyone dropped off.
I think that was probably Mona.
No, here, I'm assuming owner is Dover.
Mona's the only one left.
Yeah. So we're going to wait a minute because
Anybody need to take a break? Please do it now.
No, I think this is very, very quick in terms of what we need to do.
so Mona, it looks like you shut off Facebook.
Mike, so I just got the little image that the recording has started, so we could probably start.
Sure, so we're good to go. So as John said, I don't think this will be long unless you have some questions. I think my email kind of summed it up, and we talked about it already tonight. You know, the department's in a tough spot like all departments. Chief McGowan and now acting Chief Wilcox talked to the union about trying to be creative about finding a solution to this. So there is a Dover resident, Brett Rowan, I believe is how you pronounce it. Roween, sorry.
Roween.
Who has applied to become a full police officer. However, Brett missed the most recent academy, so the next academy does not start until next year. So he's a good candidate, but he's not much use of us yet. What the chief and the union have discussed, and I am on board with, and I sent you a sample of a side letter today, is that the police perform the dispatch operations for the community. They are also in desperate need and are getting very tired of forced overtime and things of that nature. They've agreed to allow us to bring on a civilian dispatcher. In this case, it would be Brett, who would be fully trained as a dispatcher and licensed in Massachusetts, to serve on the midnight shift. That would allow a police officer position to be out in the road and not have to be at the desk during that shift. So I'm very much in favor of it. Acting Chief Wilcox is very much in favor of it, and I hope the board would vote to give me permission to enter into that side agreement. The only thing I'll mention is the side letter is a draft. It's going back and forth with some minor edits with our Labor Council and the Police Council. So I would, if you wish to approve it, I would ask that you vote to approve it and allow me to agree to any minor edits between the council so that we don't have to come back to you again. But this would essentially be the agreement. There wouldn't be any significant changes. If there was, I would come back to you.
Right. So, Robin, Bob, if you would like any other further to drill down, I could tell you about Brett. I can tell you also that Kevin.
It seems like a no-brainer, John. This seems like
I know. This seems definitely, this is a great solution.
But also Jordan and Kevin and I have also talked about it as it pertains to collective bargaining and the contract, and Jordan's on board, Kevin's on board, Todd Wilcox is on board, and we're all on the same page. It's just, as Michael said, they're wordsmithing a couple of things just so it's consistent with other items that won't run afoul of collective bargaining. Michael, is that pretty?
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And just clarifying what the roles will be, and looking to maybe we might include in the side letter or in an attachment the job description and pay scale, just so that everyone's comfortable in its document.
We're also going to bring on a young man named Maggio, who is just finished the training. So we're going to have two people where it will still be one person shy, but this is helping. Goes to getting us going in the right direction.
That's right.
Okay, so my concern is with I'd like this to be complete, not pending further changes. And since this is something that's going to take place over the course of a year, why don't you guys finish the negotiations, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, and then come back?
Okay. But we would have to, Michael, we would have to get a I believe we would have to get a motion to approve it tonight and then give you, or say something to the order of giving you the authorization to approve it and subject to it being completed. Bob, is that what you're thinking?
No, Bob doesn't want to, he wants it to come back when it's complete.
I want it done.
You want the actual contract with Brett to be completed?
Yep.
So
Okay.
all I would ask then, certainly understand that. I would ask then, would the board be willing to consider a special quick
Yes,
one?
I was going to suggest that. Yeah.
No problem.
Okay.
As
then-
soon as it's done, just,
Yep.
right.
Yep, we can do a quick one on Zoom and we would just be executive session. We could approve it and then be done.
At any time. I mean, pretty much at any time.
Yeah,
Okay.
just lunchtime. We do it at lunch. You could buy me a beer.
Okay.
Naturally.
Appreciate that. Okay, are we done?
And then the only other thing, and again, if we have a special one-off meeting, you just approved $500 stipend weekly for Acting Chief Wilcox for his additional duties, which is great. There was some conversation with the union if perhaps that also should be documented in a side letter. So we'll work on that, and perhaps it will be ready the same time we do this, and we'll bring that to you as well if that's
Perfect.
appropriate. Great.
Couldn't agree with Mrs. Hunter more.
All right, well, thank you for your support on this, and we'll look to schedule something maybe early next week. So maybe we'll look to schedule something, get something on the books tomorrow for early next week.
I was
Yeah,
going to suggest that because then you have pressure for a deadline.
so
That's right. And posting requirements, we want to.
Right.
when's the holiday next week? Is it Friday?
Monday.
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 So the earliest we could do it is, well, we could do it Monday, but it'd probably do it Tuesday, right?
We'd
Well,
have to get-
Monday is closed, right?
Yeah, so
No,
we couldn't do
posted
it
to
Monday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, we
Oh,
have to,
Wednesday.
if we posted yesterday, we could, tomorrow, we could do it Wednesday.
Okay, good enough. Do I need to make a motion? Do I need a motion to adjourn the executive session?
Aye.
All in,
Aye.
how about a motion to,
Second.
I too, so we're done.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Well done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mona.
You're welcome. Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
Good night.
Are we gonna have a lot of things to sign?
I'll send you an email when they're ready.
Okay.
Will they be
Mona.
ready tomorrow
Mona.
morning? Because I can.
I'm not back, Mona. I'm not back
Yes.
until late Saturday night.
Okay.
I think you should make John come into the office late Saturday night and sign those documents.
He has a key. He can open the door and come in.
Exactly.
That's what everybody wants to do on Saturday nights.
Saturday nights, of course. What else is there to do, right?
Exactly.
We're in Dover. You can go to the wine store.
Not yet.
Thank you all. I thought the meeting was it was fun. There was informative bits. People were civil, which is always a nice model to follow. Very much appreciate that. Thank you. Have a
Well
good night.
done.
Enjoy your
Good
dinner.
night, everyone.